of 217 Columbus police per have a $200 bond eligible to 100 people, 100 police officers. And so what that means is the city is going to buy out their time. They're going to spend $2 million essentially doing it. And what this is essentially supposed to do is it's supposed to help root out some of the bad cops and things like that. And it will do that. It will do that. But the reason why we are asking tonight, will it work? Is essentially because we are expecting our police to do a lot more right now, but we aren't really giving them here in the city the resources to do it. Now, stick with me because a lot of you are probably saying, well, I thought you were a supporter of defund the police. Well, I am, but I'm going to explain what I mean by defund police because that whole term has out of gotten like way out of order and out of context because people don't know what the hell the term really means at its best. And so when I talk about defunding the police, I'm talking about reallocating funds. Now, let me push this a little bit further. Last year, we all know we had a record number of homicides set in this city, over 200. I believe the final count was like 204 here in this city. And so, with that final count and that record number happening, not just the last year in 2021, but also in 2020, and to go along with those record number of homicides, juxtapose in 2020 all the corruption that came to light within CPD and us losing brother Andre Hill, yet another black guy, a black man at the hands of CPD. Shit just got all out of hand. So last year in June, the occupant of City Hall, the y'all's Mayor Andy Ginther. It took me a moment to get that out. Andy, he brought in Police Chief Elaine Bryant, who was essentially a deputy police chief up in Detroit, Michigan. And Elaine, what Chief Bryant's task was to do is to, as they like to say, reimagine public safety, but not just reimagine public safety, but to bring about change within the division. Now, did she know she was going to be coming into a record setting homicide year of a record number of killings? Is it? No, she probably didn't know that. But secondly, she's no stranger to it, to the homicide sides being high and things like that, because they're high in Detroit too. So is she the right person for the job? Yes, I do believe she's the right person for the job, but let me just say this to all of you watching, and it may shock the hell out of you all out there watching and listening to us tonight right here on Nightly News. But I fundamentally, let me be very careful and let me state this very slowly so you all get this and you can't misconstrue the words that are coming out of my mouth at this time. I fundamentally do not think it is the right ideal at the time to be buying out 100 plus officers contracts, giving them $200,000. I get the ideal, and the ideal is a phenomenal ideal to root out some of these bad cops within CPD. A phenomenal ideal, but that's just not the right move, because we had a record number of homicides in the city. Then we got all this violence and things going on with the schools. No, we shouldn't be putting officers back in schools, but we also have to understand that with 100 officers now leaving the division because their contracts are being brought out, what we now have to fundamentally understand, everybody, is that it will affect our response times when we go to call 911. I know when we call 911 right now, and if I was to pick up my phone and call 911 right now, depending on what the situation was, it would still feel like it took officers 10 minutes. And where we're broadcasting out of live remotely, because we aren't in a studio tonight, we're in a remote studio. We're literally a quarter of a mile to a half a mile away from a subdivision here within the precinct of where we're broadcasting right now. And it would still take officers that long. Uh, and I know this for fact from talking to several officers out there that on any given day, on any given shift, a precinct is supposed to have a set number of officers, but they very rarely ever have a full staff of those officers. So, will the buyout program that's underway right now work? No, it will not work. So, let me take this a little further. So, among all of those who have applied for this program, there are 7 members of the Mounted Horse Unit. The entire 3 member therapy dog unit has applied for this, as well as 5 crime scene investigators and 7 members of the division's training bureau, and a dozen detectives tasked with investigating everything from homicides to property crimes. And we're also losing quite a few community liaison officers. And not to mention, we are going to be losing, I believe, if my recollection serves me correctly, because I have a list of in what department they're, I'm sorry, not department, but not only what rank they're in, but yeah, what department they're serving in, whether they are a detective or in the therapy dog unit or crime scene investigation or traffic. I have a spreadsheet of all of that through that I've obtained through records requests from a CPD, and out of that, I know we that 5 commanders have applied for this buyout program as well. Not only have commanders, but a handful of lieutenants and a handful of sergeants have applied for it as well. And a little over about 160 so officers and detectives applied for it. So the question now becomes, how do you, if this program is to succeed, how do you determine who gets this buyout program? Now, on the list, the spreadsheet, I there is a ranking, and I don't know if they will go by this ranking, but there is a ranking by seniority of each of these 217 officers who have applied for this buyout program. They're ranked by seniority. But that still begs the question and leaves us to wonder, how are they going to determine? Even the Fraternal Order Police Chief, I'm sorry, not Chief, but Fraternal Order of Police President Keith Farrell, he's even applied for this buyout program. So, the buyout program, according to the dispatch and their reporting on this, because there's been very little reporting uh, at all done on this. I think the dispatch is the only outlet so far that has done anything on it. I know Channel 10 did a little bit on it, but not Not much. They just told us everything I told you at the top of the show that you can obtain by doing a records request. They didn't like really go in deep to and determine how the decision will be made and if it be made in phases and things like this. But according to the dispatch's reporting today, in the dispatch, it says this that there were about 500 officers who were eligible to apply for the buyout, but only 217 did. And up until right before the buyout incentive program closed, there were people still putting in their names. There was a commander who put in his name like literally hours before the program closed out to apply for it. So nearly 80 of those people, of those 217 officers on this list who have applied for the buyout program, have 30 or more years of on the job experience, time on the job. So obviously, those are officers who have 30 years or more are the more senior officers. But the question I have, and I'm also going to be emailing a Fuqua tonight about this, is out of those senior officers, 80 or so, how many of those officers put in for the drop program, but then still put in for this buyout program? So out of those 80 who have 30 or more years of experience, obviously they're going to be offered the buyout program first, obviously, because they have more senior. But what we are being told is that if the buyout program and buyout offer of $200,000 is accepted once it is offered to you on this list, you will be able to depart and to retire or to leave the department or however you want to phrase it, beginning in a staggered period beginning in May. I left a pause right there because I said at the top when we begin to talk about this, and I began to dig into the story that the program was, or, or I shouldn't say the program, but the ideal for this program was a phenomenal ideal. It was phenomenal because, like Mayor Ginther, Andy, is saying, is it is meant for those officers who felt they no longer wanted to be police officers in Columbus. Because keep in mind, during the protests of 2020, that we were also losing a lot of officers, whether senior or young, not due to them being racist, but them just saying, I can't deal with this type, this climate right now that's going on. It's not what I signed up for when I said I wanted to protect and serve. Now, Columbus police have also not only been guilty of shooting and killing in the last 2 years, brother Andre Hill, but they also took our princess, Micaiah Bryant, from us as well. And through all of this change that not only the administration and city hall and city council have been trying to bring about, I have to wonder before I go to commercial here. One can't help but wonder, did you think about that thing they taught you back in elementary school, probably around the second or third grade, where they said to every, in science class, to every action, there is a reaction. Simply put, for every cause, there is an effect. So let me give you an example. The protests of 2020 happened because of all these civil unjust and civil unrests that we as black folks face, not just in this city, but at the hands of police, but also around this country. While that's going on, that's the cause. The effect now is to reform police, reform CPD. And the way we are going about reforming CPD, we're asking more of CPD officers. Wow. We want them to get to our houses quicker. We not only want them to get to our houses quicker, but when they get to our house, we want them to do go above and beyond the limits of protecting to serve. We want them to play psychiatrists. We want them to do a whole litany of things that can go on and on and on, naming here on tonight. Wow, not really giving them the resources. And when I say the resources, I want you to know I just explained what I meant about when I said I am a fan of defunding the police, but I'm talking about reallocating funds while not giving them the appropriate amount of people to work with. And keep in mind that the city here, city council, last year in 2021, coming out of 2020, they did defund the police by a few $1,000s. They did defund CPD, but I do understand why they had to increase their budget. And CPD's budget is the largest budget within the operating budget that's over $1 billion here in this city. CPD gets over 33% of the operating budget, which is close to $400 million. And out of that $400 million, a little over a half of that goes to paying personnel costs. But yet, we want more from them. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just simply giving you all the facts. So we got to figure out what do we want? Do we want them to be able to protect and serve and be there when we need them to be there with a quick response time and things like that, or do we not? I'm telling you right now that last year it was November, right before Thanksgiving, right where I live, a block over, somebody got shot and killed. I called 911 and I got like the nth degree on what was happening, if I knew what car the shoot. No, I just heard bullets. Do I know what the right? I heard pop, 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 pop. You think I'm going out there? No. But what I can't, I'm like, look, it happened on the next block. I can tell you that just by proximity and being able to hear. But not only that, when I called them, they didn't arrive on scene for almost 7 minutes afterwards, after the shooting happened. 7 minutes. So will the buyout program that's underway by the city work? I don't know. I don't know. It's a noble ideal, though, but will it work?